"Grandpa, my parents will take your money after the party today," my 9-year-old grandson whispered into my ear. At first, I thought he was joking, but when I looked into his eyes, I saw fear. Real fear. That's when I knew I had to act fast. So I left the party early, smiling. But what I did next? Oh, it shocked everyone so badly that my family hasn't looked at me the same since. Before I continue, let me ask you, what would you do if your own child tried to steal everything you worked your whole life for? Stick around, because this story isn't just about money. It's about betrayal, loyalty, and the one lesson that shook my entire family. I never thought my own birthday would be the day my family tried to betray me. It was a warm Saturday afternoon. Michael, my son, had insisted on hosting my 75th birthday party at his house. "Dad, it'll be easier this way. We'll take care of everything," he said. I should have been grateful. A son throwing a big celebration for his father? That sounds like a blessing. But something about the way he said it, almost rehearsed, had stuck in my head. When I walked into his house that day, balloons covered the living room, neighbors were mingling with relatives, and there was a 3-tier cake on the table that must have cost a fortune. "Wow," I muttered. "This is a lot." Emily, my daughter-in-law, swooped in with her perfect smile. "Oh, Dad, nothing's too much for you. You deserve it all." Her words were sweet, but her eyes were cold, like she was already calculating something in her head. I tried to ignore the uneasiness, to focus on the laughter, the chatter, the smell of barbecue coming from the backyard. But just as the candles were lit and everyone gathered to sing, I felt a tug on my sleeve. It was Daniel. My 9-year-old grandson. His face was pale, and his little hands shook as he leaned close to whisper. "Grandpa," he said, "my parents will take your money after the party today." At first, I froze. I thought I misheard him. I bent down. "What did you say, buddy?" His voice was trembling, but he repeated it. "They said, after the party, they'll get you to sign papers. They said it's time you gave them everything." I felt the blood drain from my face. My knees almost buckled. "Are you sure?" I whispered back. Daniel nodded quickly. "I heard them last night," Mommy said. "We'll finally convince him today. After the party, we'll have him sign." I stared at him, my heart pounding. This wasn't just a child's imagination. I could see the fear in his eyes. "Does anyone else know?" I asked. He shook his head. "No. I wanted to tell you first." I straightened up just as the family shouted, "Make a wish, Dad." The candles flickered. My grandson's words echoed in my head. "They'll take your money after the party." I looked at Michael, clapping loudly, pretending to be the perfect son. I looked at Emily, her hands already on my shoulders like she owned me. I forced a smile. I blew out the candles. Everyone cheered, photos were taken, cake was cut. I laughed, but my mind was racing. I wasn't some millionaire. I didn't have yachts or private jets. But I had worked 3 jobs when Michael was little just to keep food on the table. My late wife and I scraped and saved, and over the years I built a decent nest egg. A modest home, some savings, enough to give my grandchildren a better future. And now my own son and his wife were plotting to strip me of it. When the party was winding down, Michael approached me. His hand was firm on my back. "Dad," he said, smiling just a little too wide, "don't leave yet. We've got something important to discuss. After everyone goes, okay?" I stared at him, my smile never fading. "Of course, son, whatever you need." But inside I was screaming. That's when I made my decision. I slipped out quietly, thanking a few guests, hugging the grandkids, and pretending everything was fine. Emily called after me. "Leaving already, Dad?" "But we still—" I waved my hand. "I'm old, sweetheart. I need my nap. We'll talk another time." And with that, I walked out the door. Calm, smiling. But the truth? My mind was already spinning with a plan, because if they thought I was going to sit quietly while they stole everything I worked for, they were in for the shock of their lives. Now let me pause here and ask you, what would you do in my shoes? Would you confront them right away? Pretend you didn't know and let them dig their own grave? Or do what I did, walk out smiling, planning a revenge so clever that it would leave everyone speechless? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious what you'd choose. And don't forget, hit that like button if you're hooked so far. Trust me, it's only going to get more dramatic from here. I didn't go home after leaving the party. Couldn't. My hands were trembling on the steering wheel, my heart pounding like a drum. At 75, you'd think you'd be too old to be blindsided, too old to be hurt, but nothing prepares you for realizing that your own child is plotting against you. I pulled into the park instead, a place where my late wife, Margaret, and I used to sit on long summer evenings. She loved the fountain in the middle. It's peaceful, she always said. And right then, I needed peace. I sat on the bench, watching the water spray and the ducks glide across the pond. But all I could hear was Daniel's little whisper, "They're gonna take your money, Grandpa." I leaned back and closed my eyes. Memories of Michael as a little boy flooded my mind. Him running through the backyard with a toy plane. Him falling asleep on my chest after a long day at work. Him crying the day his mother passed, and me promising I'd always protect him. And now, that same boy, plotting to steal from me. I felt my chest tighten. I wasn't angry yet. No, anger came later. At that moment, it was heartbreak. What had I done wrong as a father? Did I spoil him? Did I not teach him enough about honesty, about integrity? Or had Emily's greed twisted him into something I barely recognized? I'll admit something to you. Part of me wanted to just give up, to let them take it all. I'm an old man. What do I need with money, with property? I don't have 50 years ahead of me. But then I thought of Daniel, that sweet boy, terrified enough to whisper the truth to me. If I let Michael and Emily win, what would that teach him? That betrayal goes unpunished? That greed is stronger than love? No, I couldn't allow it. When I finally drove home, my phone buzzed. It was Michael. "Dad? Where'd you go? We had some important papers to show you." I swallowed the lump in my throat. My voice was steady. "I wasn't feeling well, son." Another time, there was a pause. I could hear Emily in the background, her voice sharp. Then Michael said, "All right, but soon, okay? Don't wait too long." I hung up without answering. When I stepped inside my home, the silence hit me like a wave. Margaret's pictures still lined the hallway, her favorite blanket still draped over the armchair. I sat down and stared at our wedding photo. She was smiling, her hand resting on mine. That smile had carried me through wars, sickness, job losses, and everything life threw our way. I spoke out loud to her photo, like I often do. "Margaret, what would you do?" The answer came to me in a memory. Her voice years ago when we caught Michael lying about breaking a neighbor's window. "Don't yell," she had told me. "Don't scare him. Let him think he's clever. Then show him the truth in a way he'll never forget." That's when I smiled. For the first time since Daniel's whisper, I smiled. Because I realized something. If Michael and Emily thought they were clever, I would let them believe it. I would let them set their trap. And then, I would spring mine. I pulled out an old leather folder from my desk. Inside were my will, property papers, and a list of all my accounts. I studied them carefully. Michael probably thought I was careless, that I'd just sign whatever he put in front of me. But here's the thing about living 75 years. You learn to be careful, to double-check, to never trust blindly. So I made some calls. A lawyer I trusted, a banker who owed me a favor. And by the end of the night, I had a plan. I wouldn't just protect my money. I would teach my son a lesson he would never forget. The next afternoon, Daniel called me on the landline. His voice was small. "Grandpa, are you mad at me for telling? You?" My heart broke again. That poor boy thought he'd betrayed his parents. "No, buddy," I said softly. "You did the bravest thing anyone could do. You told the truth. And because of you, Grandpa's going to make sure everything's okay." "Really?" he asked, relief flooding his voice. "Really?" I said. "But it has to be our little secret for now." "Can you do that?" "Yes, Grandpa. I promise." I hung up the phone with tears in my eyes. That's when the anger finally came. Hot, sharp, blinding. Not at Daniel, not even at Emily, but at Michael, my own son, my flesh and blood, for putting his child in this position. For making him choose between honesty and loyalty. No, I wasn't just going to protect my savings. I was going to protect Daniel. So tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you go straight to the lawyer and cut your son off immediately? Or would you play it smarter? Let him think he's winning, and then pull the rug out at the last second? Because I already knew my answer. I was going to let the game begin. And by the time it was over, my son would regret ever underestimating me. The following week, Michael called me again. His tone was warm, too warm, the kind of false sweetness you hear from a salesman trying to close a deal. "Dad," he said, "how about dinner at our place Friday night? Just family. We can go over those, important things we mentioned." I almost laughed. Important things. He couldn't even say the word papers without choking on it. "Of course, son," I said, my voice calm. "I'll be there." But what he didn't know was that by Friday, I'd already spent hours at my lawyer's office. My lawyer, Mr. Harris, had been with me for 20 years, a sharp old bulldog of a man who didn't mince words. When I told him what Daniel had overheard, he leaned back in his chair and let out a low whistle. "So they're trying to hustle you, huh?" "Looks like it," I said. Harris tapped the papers on his desk. "Well, lucky for you, you're still legally sharp as a tack. You don't sign anything unless I say so, and if they push too hard, we'll already have safeguards in place." We worked out a plan, not just a will adjustment, but a decoy, something that would tempt Michael and Emily into thinking they had won. By the time I walked out of that office, the folder under my arm felt heavier than gold. Friday night, I arrived at Michael's house with a smile plastered on my face. I even brought a bottle of wine, the same brand Margaret used to love. Emily greeted me at the door. "Dad, so glad you could make it." Her hug was quick, cold. She smelled like expensive perfume, the kind you buy when you think you're already rich. Dinner was awkward. They made small talk, asked about my health, my plans. All of it felt rehearsed, like they were just waiting for the main act. Finally, after dessert, Michael cleared his throat. "Dad," he said, "we thought tonight might be a good time to go over some future planning. You know, to make sure everything is taken care of." Emily chimed in, her smile thin. "Yes, Dad, it's really for your own peace of mind. We don't want you stressing about all those complicated papers." I looked at both of them, pretending to be tired, confused. I even rubbed my temples like I was overwhelmed. "Maybe you're right," I said softly. "Maybe it's time to let you two handle things." Emily's eyes lit up. Michael's grin was so wide I thought his face might split. Michael disappeared into the other room and returned with a stack of papers neatly bound in a folder. He slid it across the table. "Just some standard authorizations, Dad." "Nothing major. You know, power of attorney, transfer of accounts, things like that." I flipped the folder open slowly. I didn't let my hands shake, but inside my blood boiled. They had prepared everything. All they needed was my signature. "Go ahead," Emily urged. "We can even have Daniel bring you a pen." I glanced at my grandson, who was sitting quietly in the corner, watching with wide eyes. I gave him the smallest wink. "Not tonight," I said, closing the folder gently. My eyes are too tired. I don't want to sign something I can't read properly. But soon, very soon, Michael forced a laugh. Of course, Dad. No rush. We'll keep these ready for you. When I got home, I called Harris immediately. They tried, I said. Of course they did, he replied. Don't worry. We'll make sure the only thing they get is a lesson. We finalized the decoy papers, documents that looked like they handed over my assets, but in reality gave them nothing of legal value. A trap disguised as a gift. 2 days later, Daniel rode his bike to my house. He dropped it in the yard and ran to me, panting. Grandpa, did they make you sign? I knelt down beside him. Not yet, buddy, but listen. I need you to be strong. Pretend you don't know anything. Can you do that? His eyes were wide. Yes, Grandpa, I promise. I put a hand on his shoulder. You're braver than your father ever was at your age. One day you'll understand why this matters. The next few weeks I played my part perfectly. I let Michael and Emily believe I was getting weaker, more forgetful. I sighed heavily at the dinner table, pretended to lose track of conversations. Michael would pat my shoulder and say, "Don't worry, Dad, we'll take care of everything soon." And I'd just nod, smiling faintly. But behind the scenes, every move was calculated, every document was checked, every penny was accounted for. By the time they pushed me to sign again, everything was ready. The trap was set. So let me ask you, do you think I should have confronted them right there at the dinner table? Or was I right to play the fool, let them dig their own grave, and then slam the truth down when they least expected it? Because in my mind, the only thing sweeter than revenge is patience. And trust me, the way I revealed the truth, it wasn't just shocking. It was devastating. A week later, Michael called me again. "Dad," he said, his voice dripping, with fake warmth. "Are you ready now? We've got everything set up for you. Emily even organized the papers so it'll be easy." I chuckled softly. "Well, son, I suppose it's time. I don't want to be a burden." There was a pause, just for a second. Then his tone lit up. "That's great, Dad. We'll do it tomorrow evening. Come by the house. We'll make, it's simple." I hung up the phone, smiling. They thought they had me. But in truth, I already had them. The next morning, I stopped by Mr. Harris's office. He handed me a slim black folder. "Here's what you'll sign," he said, his eyes glinting. "Looks official enough to fool anyone, but legally it gives them nothing. A big fat zero." I opened the folder. The documents looked professional, stamped and notarized. On the surface, they seemed to transfer rights, but every clause was hollow, legal smoke and mirrors. "They'll think they own the house, the accounts," Harris explained, "but what they'll really own is air." I laughed, a deep, satisfied laugh. Perfect. When I arrived at Michael's the next evening, Emily greeted me at the door, practically glowing. "Oh, Dad, you look wonderful tonight. Come in, come in." Her tone was sugar, but her eyes were sharp. Dinner was rushed this time. Small talk skipped. Even Daniel noticed. He sat quietly, fiddling with his fork, sneaking nervous glances at me. Finally, Michael cleared the dishes, with a clatter, and returned with that same thick folder I'd seen before. "All right, Dad," he said, sliding it across the table. "All we need is your signature. Then you can relax and let us handle everything." Emily leaned forward. "We even highlighted the spots for you. It'll only take a minute." I picked up the pen slowly, letting my hand tremble just a little. "Son," I said, my voice thin, "you promise this is for the best?" "Of course, Dad," Michael said quickly. "You'll be stress-free. We'll manage everything." Emily nodded eagerly. "You can trust us, Dad. Family takes care of family." I looked down at the papers. Their papers. Then, very deliberately, I reached into my bag and pulled out my folder. "What's this?" Michael frowned. "Oh, nothing," I said. "Just some drafts Mr. Harris prepared. I thought we could use these instead." Easier to read. Michael exchanged a glance with Emily. He hesitated, but greed won. As long as it's the same thing, Dad, no problem. I opened my folder, slid the decoy documents onto the table and began signing. One page, another. Initials here. Signature there. With every stroke of the pen, I could feel Michael and Emily leaning closer, practically salivating. When I finished, I slid the papers back into the folder and handed it over with a weak smile. There, I said. It's done. Emily snatched the folder, flipping through eagerly. Yes, this is it. It's finally done. Michael grinned ear to ear. Dad, you won't regret this. You'll see. We'll take care of everything. I leaned back, sipping my water calmly. I know you will, I said. I trust you completely. But inside my heart was pounding, not with fear, but with satisfaction. Because I knew what they didn't. They were celebrating a victory. That didn't exist. As they buzzed with excitement, I looked over at Daniel. He was staring at me, wide-eyed, almost trembling. I gave him the smallest nod, a silent message. Don't worry, Grandpa's got this. His shoulders eased. He smiled faintly, relief washing over his little face. In that moment, I knew, no matter what came next, it was worth it. Worth the lies, the setup, the charade. Because I wasn't just protecting money. I was protecting the truth for Daniel. That night after I left Michael's house, I sat in my car for a long time. They were probably inside, already dreaming about new cars, vacations, maybe even selling my house before I was in the ground. But none of it mattered. Because when the time came, their fantasy would collapse in front of everyone, and I would be there, watching, smiling. So tell me honestly, if your child tried to trick you out of everything you own, would you play dumb like I did? Or would you blow up at the table and call them out right away? Because me, I chose patience, and patience is a weapon sharper than any blade. And trust me, when the truth came out, it didn't just cut them, it destroyed them. 2 weeks passed. In that time, I let Michael and Emily bask in their false victory. They called me more often, checking in with fake sweetness. They started making subtle comments about renovating the house soon, or planning a little family trip once things settle. I knew what that meant. They already thought my money was theirs. But I waited. Calm. Patient. Then, the perfect opportunity came. Every year, our family gathers for Sunday dinner at my house. Even after Margaret passed, I kept the tradition alive. And this time, I made sure everyone came. My daughter Grace, her husband, my grandkids, even a few cousins. Michael and Emily showed up late, as usual, dressed sharper than normal. Emily had a new handbag on her arm. Michael's watch glistened under the dining room lights. They were glowing, smug. Dad, Michael said as he kissed my cheek, you're looking great. Stress-free, huh? Oh yes, I replied smoothly. I've never felt lighter. If only they knew why. Dinner went as usual at first. Laughter, plates clinking, stories. But halfway through dessert, I cleared my throat. Family, I began. I have an announcement. The room quieted. Forks froze. All eyes turned to me. I know I'm not young anymore. And I've been thinking a lot about the future. About what happens when I'm gone. Emily's eyes sparkled. Michael leaned forward, eager. So, I continued, 2 weeks ago I signed some papers with Michael and Emily's help. Papers to ensure the family is taken care of. Gasps rippled across the table. Grace's eyes widened. Dad, you did what? Michael jumped in quickly. Don't worry, sis. Dad wanted this. He wanted peace of mind. We're going to handle everything for him. Emily nodded, her smile sharp. It's all official now. He won't have to worry about a thing. Grace's face reddened. Are you serious? You went behind my back? Relax. Michael said coolly. Dad knows what's best. Right, Dad? I leaned back in my chair, steepling my fingers. Yes, son, I know exactly what's best. Emily tilted her head. Then tell them, Dad. Tell everyone it's settled. The room was tense. You could cut the air with a knife. I let the silence stretch, then reached under my chair and pulled out a slim black folder. This, I said, placing it on the table, is what I signed. Michael grinned. That's right. Why don't you read it aloud, Emily? I said smoothly. Let the whole family know what I've done. She snatched the folder, flipping it open with triumph. Her eyes darted across the page, then froze. Her smile faltered. What is this? She whispered. Michael frowned, snatching the papers. He scanned the text, his face draining of color. This doesn't say... That doesn't say what? Grace demanded. Michael's voice cracked. This doesn't transfer anything. It's just meaningless. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers. Grace's husband slammed his fist on the table. Were you two trying to scam your own father? I stood slowly, my voice calm but booming. Yes, they tried. They thought they could trick me, convince me to hand over everything I worked for, my home, my savings, even my grandchildren's inheritance. Daniel's little voice piped up from the corner. It's true. I heard them. Emily spun on. Him, her face twisted. Daniel, be quiet. Don't you dare, I snapped, slamming my hand on the table. Don't you dare tell that boy to be quiet. He was the only one brave enough to tell me the truth. The room went dead silent. I turned to the rest of the family. Michael and Emily thought they were clever. But what they didn't know is that I've lived long enough to spot a lie before it's even spoken. So I let them think they'd won. I let them think they owned me. And now, I tapped the papers. Now the whole family knows who they really are. Grace stood furious. How could you? To your own father. Michael stammered. Dad, it's not what it looks like. Oh, it's exactly what it looks like. I cut in. Greed. Pure greed. Emily shoved the papers back into the folder. This isn't fair. You tricked us. I smiled coldly. Yes, I did. Because you were planning to trick me. And if I hadn't, you would have stripped me of everything. Michael's face burned red. He opened his mouth, then closed it. No excuses left. No lies to hide behind. The rest of the family glared at them. Even the cousins whispered in disgust. In that moment, Michael and Emily looked small, pathetic. Their victory turned to ashes in their mouths. Daniel ran over and hugged me tightly. I knew you'd be okay, Grandpa. I kissed his forehead. Thanks to you, buddy. You saved me. The table buzzed with outrage, but I felt calm, peaceful. I had played their game and won. So let me ask you, if you were sitting at that table, watching your brother and his wife exposed in front of the whole family, what would you do? Would you forgive them, or would you cut them out for good? Because as you'll see in the final chapter, forgiveness wasn't on my mind. Not anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry, no, that fire had already burned itself into ashes. I didn't sleep because I kept replaying my grandson's words in my head. Grandpa, my parents will take your money after the party today. Do you know what it feels like when the only people you ever loved start circling you like vultures? Around a carcass? When you realize they don't see you as a father anymore, or even a human being? Just as a bank account with a heartbeat? I sat by my window until dawn, watching the quiet street, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to argue anymore. I wasn't going to beg for respect. I wasn't going to try to fix Michael and Emily because they had made their choice long ago. But I was going to protect my legacy and my grandson. The next morning, I called my lawyer again. I told him to move quickly. Split everything, I said. Half goes to charity. Half goes to Ethan. in a trust he can access when he turns 21. Michael and Emily get nothing." The lawyer hesitated. "Are you sure? That's a severe step." "Severe?" I laughed bitterly. "They've been planning to rob me while I'm still breathing. If I don't act now, they'll succeed." It was strange how calm I felt after signing the papers, almost like closing a heavy door I'd been holding open for far too long. But here's the thing about family drama. It doesn't end quietly. When Michael and Emily found out I'd left the party early, they were furious. Michael called me the next day, voice full of fake concern. "Dad, hey, you left so suddenly last night. Everything okay? You know, we really should sit down and talk about your estate planning. I mean, you don't want the government taking everything, right?" I almost laughed. The audacity. "Michael," I said calmly, "don't worry about the government. Worry about yourself." And then I hung up. He called back 5 times. I didn't answer. A week later, Emily showed up at my house with cookies, pretending to be sweet. She tried small talk, then circled back to the same subject. "You know, Dad, it's important to think about the future. Michael and I could help manage things so it doesn't become a burden for you." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "The future is already taken care of, and it doesn't involve you." The color drained from her face. She didn't bring cookies again. The real storm came when they learned the truth. From my lawyer, not from me. Michael stormed into my house, red-faced, shouting, "How could you cut us out after everything we've done for you?" "Done. For me?" I barked back, standing tall, even with my cane. "You've mocked me, lied to me, tried to use me like an ATM. The only person who's shown me honesty in this family is Ethan, and he's only 9 years old." Michael clenched his fists, and for a moment I thought he might actually strike me. But then he turned, slammed the door, and left. I haven't seen him since. So now, here I sit in my quiet little house. Alone, some might say. But am I really alone? No. I have peace, I have dignity, and I have Ethan. The boy still comes over, sometimes sneaking away when he can. We sit on the porch, eating ice cream, and he talks about school, about his dreams of being an astronaut, about anything and everything. He doesn't know the details of the will yet, and he doesn't need to. For now, it's enough that he knows his grandpa loves him. And now, dear listener, let me ask you, because this is the part where I wonder if I did the right thing. Was I too harsh? Should I have given Michael and Emily another chance, even after they schemed behind my back? Or was I right to cut them off completely to make sure they never touched a cent of my life's work? I keep going back and forth in my mind. Some nights, guilt creeps in, whispering, "They're still your children." Other nights, I remember Ethan's trembling voice as he warned me, and I know I couldn't let him down. Family should protect you, not prey on you. Maybe you're listening to this, shaking your head, thinking, "Old man, you're bitter. You'll die alone." Or maybe you're nodding, saying, "Finally, someone stood up to the vultures." Either way, I'll tell you this much. Money reveals people's true colors. Sometimes it shows you love. Other times it shows you greed. So deep, it erases every memory you thought was sacred. So here's the lesson I want to leave you with. Whether you're a parent, a child, or even a grandchild listening to this right now, don't wait until the reading of a will to show where your heart lies. Respect can't be faked. Love can't be bought. And if you're in my shoes, an aging parent wondering if your children see you as more than a dollar sign, remember this. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to say no. Because in the end, what good is leaving behind a fortune if all it does is feed the greed of those who already killed your spirit? I may not have the picture-perfect family anymore, but I have something better. I have peace. I have control over my own life, and I have the knowledge that at least one person, my grandson, saw me for who I really was. And that's worth more than any inheritance. So what do you think? Was I the jerk for cutting my own son and his wife out of my will? Or was I finally standing up for myself after years of disrespect? AITA? And if you've ever seen greed tear a family apart, don't just sit on the sidelines. Share this story. Leave your thoughts in the comments and make sure to subscribe, because trust me, there are more lessons where this one came from.